For the love of money is the root of all evil. It's not money, it's the love of it. When you love money, you'll do anything for it. Then you're an unsaved, wicked sinner doomed for hell. And that's what these wicked, unsaved Jesuit sinners doomed for hell are doing. They'll do anything for money. And they'll steal everything they can get their hands on. And they've done it to our wealth here in America. So it's time we woke up, white men for whom the broadcast is for, and realized the Jesuit order, those wicked white Gentiles, have taken our wealth from us. Well now, Federal Reserve Bank of New York is the most important of the 12 Federal Reserve Banks of the United States. It is located at 33 Liberty Street, New York, New York, with a secondary office in Buffalo, New York. Does that ring a bell with any of you? I remember when I was passing through Lower New York, and I stopped by a Catholic church to visit it, because one of the things I do is I go in every Catholic church I can see, and I check out all the symbolisms. I check out its design. I see if the Jesuits are involved. I check out the Vatican Empire. The churches are not churches. They're ambassador suites, for lack of a better term. So as I check out the empire, I check out their various hotels. Well, I talked to one priest in there, and we got to talking about the Jesuits, and he said the Jesuits are very powerful in Buffalo. So I went and checked it out. And lo and behold, I found that there is a college in Buffalo by the name of Canisius College, named after a famous German Jesuit. So now in the Federal Reserve Bank of New York City, it's not only under the aegis of Fordham University in the Bronx, but it is also near and in the same region of the Jesuit Canisius College, of which Hillary Clinton has spoken at many times. Continuing. It is responsible for the 2nd District of the Federal Reserve System, which encompasses New York State, the 12 northern counties of New Jersey, Fairfield County in Connecticut. Why would they add Fairfield County in Connecticut? Isn't that a little bit out of the way? Well, it just so happens there's a Jesuit university in Connecticut, in Fairfield County, called Fairfield University. Is this beginning to make sense to you now? A little bit? So, the district, the 2nd District of the Federal Reserve System, of which the Federal Reserve Bank of New York is the head, in that district there are 3 Jesuit universities. And those Jesuits, you can know, are educating the young who are going through their universities to ultimately man the Federal Reserve Bank, and we will see them in a few minutes. Remember, the Jesuit universities are the military fortresses from which they conquer a country in which they're situated. Continuing on. The New York Fed was opened for business on November 16, 1914, under the leadership of Benjamin Strong, Jr., who was previously president of the Bankers Trust Company. He led the bank until his death in 1928. The bank grew rapidly during the early years, necessitating the need for a new home. 33 Liberty Street. And by the way, we'll get back to Benjamin Strong in a minute. A public competition for design of the building, and they said the bank was moved to its current location in 1928. 1 year before the stock market crash, 1 year after the creation of the American langue, the American tongue of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. So Archbishop Patrick Cardinal Hayes of New York City creates the Knights of Malta here in America in 1927. 1928, the Federal Reserve Banks moved to the heart of New York City on Liberty Street. 1929 comes the crash, thanks to Roman Catholic Knight of Malta Joe Kennedy, one of the 3 Irish short sellers. You see how the Vatican so cleverly and cunningly sets its trap and then springs it, and nobody knows who sprung it? Continuing, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York maintains a vault that lies 86 feet below sea level, resting on Manhattan bedrock. By 1927, the vault contained 10% of the world's official gold reserves. By 1927, 10%. Currently, it is reputed the largest gold repository in the world. Though this cannot be confirmed, as Swiss banks do not report their gold stocks, and holds approximately 5,000 metric tons of gold bullion. That's $160 billion as of March 2008, more than Fort Knox. Well, all the gold has been taken out of Fort Knox over a 17-year period, and it has been transferred into the basement of the Federal Reserve Bank. And officially, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York City has in excess of 600,000 gold bars. I have a picture of them in my book, Vatican Assassins. I also have a picture of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and Vatican Assassins. Pictures tell 1,000 words. The gold hoard of North America is in the Federal Reserve Bank of New York City, and it, for the most part, is our gold! FDR gave title to the nation's gold in 1933 with a declaration of bankruptcy. That dirty Freemason, apostate Protestant sinner. And it wasn't long after World War II, when the Jesuits started moving it out of Fort Knox right into their Federal Reserve Bank in New York City. And Dr. Peter Beater exposed this in around the 1970s, how Fort Knox had been robbed, how there was only junk gold in it, and it was all covered up. You need to get some of Dr. Peter Beater's audio letters concerning Fort Knox. And Dr. Peter Beater was a Roman Catholic who blew the whistle. Okay, so we have this gold hoard in the Federal Reserve Bank of New York City. Now, in Averell Manhattan's great work, The Vatican Billions, written in 1983, we read on page 206. Well, we'll read a couple of verses before here, lines before. Similar concerns in which the Vatican's millions were invested and reinvested existed practically all over Europe. We have already glanced at the industrial, commercial, and financial concerns with global ramifications. The Vatican, as we have already reiterated, has large investments with the Rothschilds of Britain. Who runs who? The Rothschilds of Britain or the Vatican? France and America, with the Hambros Bank, that is White Gentile, Knight of Malta, with Credit Suisse, that is White Gentile, in London and Zurich. In the United States, it has large investments with the Morgan Bank. Remember, Ben Strong was with the J.P. Morgan when they set up the Federal Reserve Act, when they drew it up at Jekyll Island. Benjamin Strong was J.P. Morgan's agent to Jekyll Island. And according to Edmund Paris, J.P. Morgan was the Vatican's banker for North America. So no wonder the Vatican has investments with Morgan Bank, the Chase Manhattan Bank, they now being J.P. Morgan Chase in conjunction with Chemical Bank, the First National Bank of New York, the Bankers Trust Company, and others. The Vatican, as we have already seen, has billions of shares in the most powerful international corporations, such as Gulf Oil, Shell. Guess who controls the oil industry, folks? It's the Pope. He also controls Saudi Arabia. He controls OPEC. He controls Venezuela. He shut down our oil reserves in North America. You listen to Lindsey Williams. He will tell you that the men of power in this country deliberately shut down our oil reserves. Why? Because those men of power are kissing the slippered toe of the Pope. Continuing. Shell, General Motors, Bethlehem Steel, General Electric. General Electric provides most of the top electrical and magnetic technology for the building of anti-gravity craft in this country. All housed underground in the deep underground military bases. Without General Electric, there are no flying saucers. International Business Machines, that's IBM. Oh, now we have Thomas J. Watson, IBM and the Holocaust by Edwin Black. The Vatican controlling IBM. TWA, Trans World Airlines. That's why we understand the conflict between Howard Hughes and TWA. And ultimately Howard Hughes being taken over by the Vatican with their most faithful tool and Knight of Malta, who's still alive, Robert A. Mayhew. That's right, we name names on this broadcast because we're all about ready to die.